house.
6:30?
6:30.
Okay, I'd like to call the Leominster Planning Board together. Meeting for September 20th, 2021. Okay, at first scheduled public hearing. And the public hearing for a special permit for Central Street, Mechanic Street, map 16, parcels 3, 5, 5A, 9, 13, 14, 26, for work on the floodplain, New Stock Brook. This is rescheduled from 8/16. Do I have a representative?
Yes.
Okay, welcome.
Good evening. My name is Ken Mavergeorge. I'm the project manager from Woodard and Curran. Here on behalf of the city of Leominster about the project downtown in New Stock Brook. I do have some exhibits. They're behind me.
Yes, yeah, go ahead.
Please, I'll just step back over here. So a little bit about the project. It is an MVP funded project. Back in late 2019, early 2020, our firm Woodard and Curran worked with the city to get the city certified as an MVP community. This is the first project under that grant. It's an action grant. The project is located right downtown, the heart of downtown, not far from here, bordered by Manning Ave to the south, and Park Street / Central Street, and Mechanic Street to the north. The project includes as part of this, we're trying to improve the resiliency of the brook itself in an exposed portion of the brook, as well as improving the condition of the culvert that rests beneath the public parking facility, the public parking lot. So what you see here is a description of the proposed condition of the brook itself. This is the public parking area that's located just off of Mechanic Street. We have Manning Ave down at the bottom of the page. And what you see here is an exposed portion of the brook. These dark lines represent the proposed grading, the proposed limits of work within the area. And this stretch here would be approximately 150 feet of reconstructed culvert. Today there's a 16-foot wide culvert that is below the parking lot. That's in deteriorated condition. With this project, we would be removing that 16-foot wide culvert and replacing it with a 24-foot wide span, as well as reconstructing the channel itself to increase the amount of volume, the amount of flood storage in that brook by creating a 24-foot wide bottom of the channel. And the reason I wanted to bring this plan in particular is to show this dashed line. It's kind of hard to see, but this dashed line represents the existing grade of the brook, and the solid line that's just below it represents the proposed condition. So you'll see that we are removing some material there to establish a more stable brook, and carrying that all the way through. Now, with the culvert being replaced, we're replacing only about 150 feet of approximately 200 feet, with the limit of the project stopping at the limits of the culvert below Mechanic Street. So culvert below Mechanic Street is owned by the Mass DOT, and the limit of work only goes up to their jurisdiction.
What size is that?
It's 24.
24.
Yeah, so the proposed culvert that we're putting in would match the size of the culvert beneath the. We do, as I mentioned, because it was an MVP project, there's been a lot of legwork that's gone into the design plans. We've conducted a parking analysis of the area to evaluate a number of alternatives that would result from the loss of parking underneath this area. We conducted wetlands delineation within the area. We're in the process now of permitting through the state, various permits. I think as of June 30th, 2021, we had submitted all permits that are required, and we're working through comments presently. We've also conducted an H&H modeling analysis to see what the impacts would be of this proposed condition. We've developed that alternatives analysis to look at various configurations, and we've settled on this based on public input, feedback from abutters and property owners in and around the area. We've had a couple of public meetings, including a conservation committee meeting back in I believe July was the last one we attended, where we presented the proposed options and sought feedback and have finally incorporated that in. Over the coming weeks, we will be holding more public meetings to push the plans to through the next stage of the project. But tonight we're seeking a special permit because we are working within the floodplain. We did submit, I believe, a response to all the various conditions required of the special permit. I'm happy to go through those if you'd like, and happy to answer any additional questions that you might have.
Okay.
You mentioned loss of parking, temporary or permanent loss of parking?
So in order to, so we looked at 3 different alternatives with this. One alternative was to eliminate the parking within the entire parking lot and remove the entire culvert. It was determined based on the parking analysis that we did. It was also, we also heard feedback from the butters that that was not a viable option. The parking is too valuable downtown. We also worked with some of the immediate business owners adjacent to the property to figure out what, if any, threshold of parking could be lost. There is a slight reduction with the plan that we currently have in place of, I believe, 5 or so spaces, primarily to create more green space and open space within the project area. But the biggest change is we've moved, we've cut back the slope on this southern side of the channel to create a more natural looking embankment. And I will bring up kind of a rendering to show what that would look like. So this is, obviously it's a computer rendering of what the potential work improvements would be. You'll notice that there's a much wider channel than currently exists. There would be a new culvert here, it's an arch culvert, like what exists by Mass DOT. The parking lot would be reconstructed with a minimal loss of parking, again, which we've discussed with the butters. And we've created more of a naturalized green slope here. So the existing walls in and around the brook would be reconstructed as part of this. And so the primary loss of parking would be along this edge of Manning Ave. So just to give you another perspective of it, this is looking towards that parking area. And you'll notice that there is currently head-in parking, which would be proposed to be a parking upon completion. You'll notice that the retaining walls along the area would be reconstructed as well. And the reason for that, the primary driver of the project was that there was a partial wall collapse at this intersection back, I believe, 4 years ago. And so right now, if you were to look out at the site, you'll notice that there's a bunch of stone that's been dumped there to temporarily stabilize it.
So I didn't realize, so this is public parking?
Well, I'm not,
That's not accurate.
yeah,
I mean, the Manning building is right, parking in front of the Manning building.
Right.
So I think it's gonna be
Just talking
non.
about losing these spaces, are we
well,
losing
there's
public parking?
head-in parking here. I believe it's we do have, let's see,
Are you losing a little bit up here?
yeah, there may be some private parking.
Losing a
You
little
lose
here.
it so up top.
Yeah, there's gonna be a couple lost in this area, but in this area, it's going from head-in parking presently to parallel, so we're probably losing 3 or 4 in that area. The owner of this building, we've been talking with about, and they were willing to sacrifice a couple of parking spaces in order to move this wall and create a more green slope.
Okay, looks good. Sorry about that. Okay,
Any other questions or?
any questions of the board? Do I have any questions from the audience? Yes, go ahead.
So I've attended a few of your
Can you say your
public
name,
meetings.
please?
Excuse me, sir, please identify yourself.
I'm Dick O'Brien, resident near Leominster. So I was at 2 of your presentations. My concern, I'm looking at that rendering and I'm seeing those retaining walls and they look like smooth concrete retaining walls. Have we given up on the option of a stone face front on that to recreate the historic look that is presently there?
No, that's a great point, I appreciate the question. There is, I brought this along, it's kind of hard to see, but, what you'll see here is the arch of the proposed culvert, the entrance. But most importantly, you'll notice that we have a cross-section of what the wall would look like. It would be built as a segmental precast concrete wall. That each block itself has a pattern that gives the appearance of stacked granite. And so, there's a number of different options out there to achieve this look, but that would be the intent, is to make it look more historic in nature.
And the second question I have is, at the time, we expressed some concern about the maintenance of those natural areas. Is that gonna just fall to the city to take care of that?
Certainly, so one of the things we're working with on, as we move into the next phase of the project, is getting the plans from a permitting level into a construction level drawing. We've enlisted the services of a landscape architect to evaluate the site. We're gonna be seeking feedback and conducting a community survey for the project to inform that design. And the intent would be is to make the area as low maintenance as possible within the brook, and the areas up above appealing and as easy to maintain as we can. So we're trying to seek feedback from both the city staff and the public.
Thank you.
I got one question, how about on the other side of Mechanic Street? What's the condition of the brook on there, over there?
So
Does that impede backflow at all, or?
So with our modeling, we studied FEMA conducted a study back in the late 70s of this section of the brook, and they're actually currently updating that study as we speak. So when we did our hydraulic modeling, because it's an MVP funded project, we have to look into the future to figure out what the future conditions are. We have to take into account the increased rain intensity in the year 2070. Or what we would anticipate it to be. And with that, we have to project the size and determine what the size of how this particular design would function. In the 1978 model, it shows that the water overtops the parking lot and flows downstream into the neighborhoods downstream of this culvert. With our model, we're projecting in the 2070 condition that the water level slightly increases, but that the water stays within the channel. And so, and that's with the 24-foot wide span. So we're projecting this and trying to design this as resilient as we can.
Okay.
So it won't, I guess maybe what John was saying, after it comes through the new culvert
Yep.
and heads down, to the rest of the brook, if something were to happen on the other end that blocked it, then was that in the model at all? If there was something.
So our model
Yeah.
stops basically just beyond the existing DOT bridge.
Okay.
But with the FEMA study, and this is part of what we're gonna be doing as we move forward, they're gonna be looking at the entire brook. So one of the things we're gonna be paying close attention to is what do they say the impacts are downstream? I will say that we looked at a number of different storm events from the 10 to 25 up to 100 year. And in the existing condition, because the culvert is small, we're gonna be decreasing the maximum velocity of the water through there. One thing to point out is that in these larger storms, the existing culvert that's there today is insufficient and it's backing up the water. So that's really our pinch point, is the existing culvert as it currently exists. The future condition, we're getting the water through there, and even though it's gonna slightly increase downstream, it stays within the channel, protects downstream.
Okay. It's far enough downstream, okay, good. Okay, do I have any other questions? I'll ask again, do I have any other questions from the audience? Third and final time. Got any other questions? Okay. Thank you. Motion is in order.
Should have closed the hearing.
Second.
Have a motion made and seconded to close the hearing. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Right on.
Thank you.
Good night, thank you.
Looks great, I like it. Looks good.
Good. Public hearing for petition 7521, referral to city council. Dumpster zoning amendment, rescheduled from 8/16.
Alright,
Elizabeth, you wanna give us an
You want me to kick
update on
off?
this?
yes, City Council has had several, agenda items to address this, but they've kindly, delayed their action until they hear back from the board, so they're eagerly waiting to hear back from the board tonight. In front of you, I solicited, on dumpsters, I solicited, comments from other department heads. We have a new health director. He wanted to comment on this matter. So I don't know if you had time in front of you to read the letter. He has comments about the condition of the dumpster. He says all dumpsters should be free of holes, rust, and damage that would create a nuisance or hazard to the general public. Dumpsters 10 yards and smaller should have appropriate covers and be leak-proof in order to prevent contamination of groundwater or discharge liquid into storm drains. And then he also says the ordinance the language that we're recommending states that the dumpster location should be accessible 24 hours per day. What the health officer is saying is that there's another regulation that states or another regulation that states that you can only pick up rubbish between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. So I don't know if that's something you wanna compromise.
I just have a question.
That's pickup, that's not use of the dumpster.
I agree, it doesn't seem like a conflict.
Yeah.
That's my question about what is accessible. Accessible
Yeah.
by truck emptying or accessible?
Yeah, I think that's a different, I think accessible is for the able to
Yeah.
use it, okay?
And
And,
somebody else can answer another question. Why 10 yards or smaller? Why wouldn't bigger ones also need?
Yeah.
The big ones
Covers be leak-proof?
typically the 10-yard ones are your local ones, okay? Your big ones are open to construction.
None of them leak.
And none of them are leak-proof, Tom? Is that what
Not the big,
So do you
all the
want-
big doors at the front,
you're
that, they aren't sealed.
Gotcha.
You
I don't know enough about
can go on.
So-
That's why it's fun.
But the 10-yard ones are generally?
Yeah, they're sealed cans, you know, but most of them are rusty. They tend to leak and
And I
But it gives us when they're new, they're fine. If they get down, if they set the rust out, the Board of Health has a way of getting it to be replaced.
And we did re-advertise this because this was rescheduled from the meeting that was in August 16th. So we re-advertised it
Oh.
for the first 2 Mondays in September.
Yeah, and we can rewrite that with those changes. Also, like what we found
With what changes?
from the Board of Health,
Well, we just said we didn't want to make the change on accessibility, right?
not on the accessibility, but on
So you're doing it at 10 yards or smaller, so Tom's saying.
the covers, yeah.
It's not enforceable, because it's gonna be.
Well, it is, I think it is enforceable, because let me get to that. Is we've had a lot of problems at Shoreland Farms where we did not have a cover on our dumpster. And we found out that we were picking up everybody's trash in the neighborhood, and then some. So we now have, so what I'd like to add to it, is they all have covers with locks, okay? And
Then
then,
how do people access them 24
well, the
hours a
people
day?
that have the right would either have a key or a combination or something like that.
I don't know how.
that's not gonna.
That would, that wouldn't work. I don't think that'd work.
It works at the farm.
Yeah,
Maybe
well,
it was
that's
the
because
farm,
it's
but
a
anybody
farm
picking up a
employee, but you're
dumpster around
talking
town,
about,
it's not gonna, the
what
truck's
about
not
an
gonna stop
apartment
to get out and lock the.
It's not
Sure.
really a condo.
An apartment building,
Apartment buildings, condos, those guys go in,
Condos.
they go out.
But why would,
someone go up,
wouldn't the condo association have a facilities department?
Yeah.
No.
Where you have sometimes like a little fenced in area that has
Oh,
a
you mean
lock
that
on
has the.
Yeah.
has
Something
the-
like that.
Right.
But again,
Alright,
the company might not, that's picking it up.
It's just if you lock them, nobody has accessibility.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't want to go for
I wouldn't either.
But they should have covers.
Yes.
that. But, so again, the large ones wouldn't have covers?
Not typically.
Okay.
Not gonna.
The large ones are generally
Yeah,
transient
yeah.
as opposed to the
Covers that
smaller
open
ones
up.
which are.
Which are fixed. Okay, I understand. Okay. So the change you're suggesting then is that the dumpsters 10 yards or smaller have a cover and
Yeah.
leak proof?
Yeah, and what he says about
Oh,
the
What
maintenance,
about
right?
vehicles
Number
and
one,
rust
we
and
only need
damage?
dumpsters probably 3 or 4 yards or smaller. 10 yard, they don't have 8 yard dumpsters, they have 3, 4, they start at 10, then they go to 15, then they go to 30. But I have probably 4 yard dumpsters. They have
They're a
covers.
mess, they're a rusty, holy fucking,
Oh, they just got replaced, so.
Yeah.
So you're saying the 10s are not a problem, it's just the small
The
ones?
10s don't have covers. They get covers when they get picked up. The truck will come and put it, put their own cover in the truck over.
So do you wanna include that whole paragraph that the health officer is recommending? All dumpsters should be free of holes.
no, we should have some in there, so.
Yeah, that should be in
Well,
there.
there's some integrity in the business.
That's what she said.
Somebody's got a
You said you
dumpster,
wanna
that's got a
include
bunch
that.
of holes, they can call the
Yes.
dumpster company and say, come in.
So
So
Tom,
include the paragraph as written.
Well, do we want 10 yards and
Or
smaller?
smaller
Or
than
smaller
10
than
yards.
10 yards.
No,
Dumpsters
10 yards,
smaller
no,
than
the
10
big ones are
yards.
10 yards.
That's what I'm saying.
So he's saying, oh, here's a
Big
4.
ones are 30 yards, but 10 yards is a.
10 yards is like a, getting
They
dropped
don't have
off your
plastic
house
cover.
when you're doing
So
construction.
this right now says 10 yards and smaller, instead we wanted to say smaller.
What size?
than 10 yards.
What
Yeah.
size Tommy has, what the covers?
Right.
4 yards,
Smaller than
3
10
to 4
yards.
yards.
4 yards,
Smaller
Should be
than 10.
smaller than 10 yards.
yeah.
You can say smaller than 10 yards, because I think the next one's 5.
Yep, but it covers us.
4,
Yep.
3.
Smaller than 10 yards.
And properly labeled and marked with contact.
I think that's important.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
So we'll include that too.
Somebody is,
Okay, so you want it to read like this: all dumpsters should be free of holes, rust, and damage that would create a nuisance or hazard to the general public. Dumpsters smaller than 10 yards should have appropriate covers and be leak-proof in order to prevent contamination of groundwater or discharge of liquids into storm drains.
That's-
And then dumpsters should be properly labeled and marked with contact phone numbers at all times.
Yep.
And then I can just, for positioning, if you look at 46.1.6.1, I could put it under 45.1.6.2 and 45.1.6.3. Because it's under dumpster access, location, and screening.
Okay,
Does that work?
it works for me.
oh, so that's a motion. Oh, no, we gotta close the hearing.
Yeah, well, first I'll open it up to the audience. Do I have any questions, anybody, comments from the audience? The dumpsters? What was the, Elizabeth, did you get anything from the city council, what their concerns were?
What dumpsters?
Yeah,
No, they didn't speak to it. They're waiting to hear, they wouldn't hear back.
oh, they didn't wait for us, okay. So we got these changes, we'll make those corrections and submit those checks. So motion, I'll ask one more time. Do I have any questions or comments from the audience? Okay, with that, a motion will be in order to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Paul, seconded by Carol. They close the hearing. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
You've got 60 minutes until the next.
We have 6
I move
minutes.
to go to the regular meeting.
Second.
Yeah.
I have a motion made and go to the regular meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Call to order, please.
Dean Valier,
Here.
Jason Parre.
Here.
Patrick Carla,
Here.
Paul Weiser.
Here.
Salvatore Giacone,
Yeah.
Tom Kerrigan,
Here.
Carol Vittorioso.
Here.
John Souza.
Yeah. Minutes of previous meetings, June 21st, 2021.
Can I have a housekeeping matter before we get to
Okay.
far in the minutes? If you weren't at the meeting, for the minutes that are being presented, if you could either sign an affidavit or not vote, pick one of the two, that would be great.
Okay. Okay, we'll do June 21st, 2021. Is there anyone that was not there at that meeting? Okay. So everybody else?
No, it's July 9th. That was that.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm jumping again.
Oh, that's July 9th.
June 21st, do I have any, do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Moved by Carol, seconded by Jason. June, do I have any additions, deletions, or corrections? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Abstain.
Okay.
Tom abstained.
July 6th, 2021. Okay. Again, on attendance,
We have Sal and Paul that were not present.
Sal and Paul, okay? On
Make a
balance,
motion to accept.
do I have a motion?
Yeah.
Motion by Pat, seconded by Jason. Okay, do I have any additions, deletions, corrections, deletions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Abstain.
That was Sal and Paul.
Yeah. July 19th, 2021. Minutes.
Motion to recommend approval?
I have a motion to recommend approval. Do we have any attendance on that?
Sal and Pat did not attend.
Tom and Pat, okay? Any additions, or deletions, or corrections? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Abstain.
Okay.
Sal and Pat abstained. Thank you.
Abstain and
The summer of 21.
Still 6:57.
Okay, 3.0. I have a site plan for 120 Pioneer Drive, map 463, parcel 13, for retail marijuana facility. This has to be scheduled for our next meeting.
We have
For
it
the
wide
first?
open.
Retail, for retail.
Yeah, that'd be the first for retail. What do we have open?
We have it wide open for October 4th.
October 4th,
Make a motion.
6:30?
6:30.
Second.
I have a motion made and seconded for October 4th at 6:30. Any additions, any questions? All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries.
2 minutes.
Do it time, yeah, just do the time. And 1240 Central Street, map 566, lots 15 and 16. Do I have a representative?
Yes.
It's upside down, I'm sorry.
That's all right. You guys are upside down. Yeah. Cuts in, yeah. Right there,
Good
that's
evening, Doug Andrysik, Andrysik Land Surveying,
it. Okay,
and we're here with an A&R plan for Nelson and Gloria Garman, 1240 Central Street. We're on the eastern side of the street, just southerly of the intersection with Willard Street. The Garmans would have an existing house on the property, and they'd like to divide the property into 3 lots. Lot 1 containing the house of just over half an acre. Lot 2 with just over 1 acre. Lot 3 with just over 3/4 of an acre of land. Each lot has at least the required amount of frontage, the lot width fits the 80-foot diameter circle in it.
And what is this,
And frontage is for the first.
this red, what's the zoning? Residential A?
Yes.
That's just not.
Excuse me? It is, starts, it's a little bit flat, and then once it gets in, it drops off.
Drop down to the road.
Drops down. Yeah, it's, after we get about 40 feet in from the road, then it starts to drop down.
This has to be 100 feet.
So you're gonna for two houses
Excuse me?
there? You're gonna for two houses?
Well, we'd like to.
Yeah, but you don't get the 100 feet on the lot width. You get the frontage, what's your frontage, 80?
Yes.
Remember, it's an A and R, it's an A and R.
The minimum frontage is 80, the minimum width is 100.
We have at least 100.
This one you got, yeah.
Setback.
You get your 80, you get your 100, is this 100 here?
The circles are 80 feet.
No, so lot 3 isn't you don't have 100 feet, you're not carrying 100 feet back.
But it's an A and R.
I know.
Let the building inspector worry about that when he wants to.
Yeah, because it's really not a buildable lot,
But it's an A&R.
but we could have it put on there, it's not a buildable lot.
Just make a note.
I don't,
Yeah.
Well, we did ask a question of the planner, and I believe, I don't know, but I think we checked with the building department, and because the zoning bylaw is a little confusing on where, and it was my understanding that we need to have 100-foot lot width at the front setback requirement, and a circle with the frontage somewhere in the lot.
Wetlands in here?
There are, as we get down in this area. yes.
They get the brook down here.
So
It's probably
can I just get some clarification here? I mean, it's an A and R, right, but we're
Right.
creating a non-conforming lot here with the A and R plan that's in front of us, so it really isn't an A and R.
it's an A and R.
I don't know, because of lot
Yeah,
3.
well, but it's just,
Unless it's
that
labeled not
lot 3
buildable.
gets not buildable. You have to bring, you can go 80 feet out to 100. So where you're gonna put your house is where you need the 100. Okay, where you're gonna put the houses, you only get 80.
Well, we have 100 feet right through here.
You're not putting the house there. The house is gonna be back here.
But the side setbacks, he could turn that house sideways.
Uh-oh, it's up to the building inspector.
But you know what I'm saying? They could put a house in there. I don't know if he needs 100 feet all the way across, but he's gotta be able to fit it in with the right setbacks.
Oh, we'd like to submit a plan that will conform to all your regulations, so
And that
if this will not,
Right.
we'd rather withdraw it and then bring it back.
Yeah.
I apologize to understand, we did ask this question, and I thought,
The general understanding we had was,
Because you
that
have
we've
room to
had
move
is
it,
that
right?
the
we
100,
can move it, yeah.
Yeah, you have the room.
Yeah.
to-
I'd rather move it and have it.
Yeah,
be
absolutely,
required.
because I'm looking at it saying, then it's truly a
Well, you might be
A and
able to
R.
split the difference here and still get it.
yeah,
Yeah, you get it. It's got plenty
they
of
can,
room.
they got room to play with it, as it is
Taking
now.
this barn out,
Yes.
so you might be able to slide this one.
It's just where, it's gonna carry
Now
back.
his space is here. Cause see, the house is already there, so this lot here is not
This
a big
isn't a
deal.
lot. I
The
mean,
lot 1 stays as a lot,
That's a lot, all right.
that's right,
2 and 3 is
Okay.
where he's trying to get out.
2 and 3, so
Right.
you can actually move this over a little bit and get your 100 feet here.
Oh, we would rather submit a full
Yeah.
compliant.
But what we're looking for is 100 feet at the house.
Okay, so instead of 80-foot circles, you'd like to see 100-foot
100,
circles?
right.
Okay. We will.
Well, that, we know you've carried, where the house is gonna be built has to be 100 feet,
Okay.
carried back from the frontage, or 80 feet carried back from the frontage,
You
right?
can go 80 and out,
80,
but you can't go 80 and in.
right.
That's where we had a lot of problems,
Okay.
with the usury frontage and things like that, okay? We get these, what we call pork chop lots.
Mhm.
And that's what we're trying to do, is get away from the pork, because we ran nothing but problems
Right.
with those things.
Okay.
So, I can't deny it, okay? But you can request Did we continue it to the next
Yeah,
meeting?
I guess I would request that we continue to your next meeting if you could.
I think
That'll
we
be
can vote
October
on it,
4th.
but Whatever.
Okay.
So do I. I actually think. It says lot width 100 yards.
That's a cross section. I'd have to look at the zoning again.
The zoning bylaws are very vague, and I
I don't
think
think it
it's
says
in that
that.
regard.
I don't think it says the width. It says frontage width.
If you
Yeah,
get the-
80.
It says the width is 100.
Oh, it's 100, excuse me, right.
Width is 100, right
Width
here.
is
I know.
100, right.
You can look at it, it's 100 here, it's not all the way back, but you could actually say, well, I'm gonna turn the house sideways, so. You know, the width of.
He's gonna carry, does he have to carry the 100 back or the 80
We got a
back?
half an acre.
80 is the frontage.
We're only on a half an
80.
acre, so we've got the.
80 is the frontage, right? So you gotta carry the frontage back where you're gonna place the house, right?
Yeah,
But, so we don't need 100, we need 80.
no, you need 100.
100 at the house?
Here, I have the book.
You got the book there.
Right.
Residential A. Lot frontage 80, lot width 100. The lot is shaped that is capable of containing a circle with a diameter of at least the minimum frontage for that district within any principal building placed is the minimum yard requirements from any lot lines.
So it's 80.
So it's really 80.
Yep, not
So
100.
he's got the 80
So he's
circle
got
in
it.
there.
So it's
fine.
good.
Then we gotta correct that, because that was supposed to be changed.
In the book?
Yeah.
No, why would we do that, John? I mean, I'm serious, I'm asking that question
Wait,
because
say that
if
one
you
more
got an
time.
At the
80
time, we had the
Width of
discussion
the
on
front.
that.
I don't know. I mean, the whole
Remember in
point,
the older bylaws, they actually had a diagram
Yeah.
for lot width, you folks
We
had
probably
it
should
in
have a
there,
diagram.
which
in
would be
there.
great to bring it back.
Is this your first meeting? Yeah, the diagram would be helpful.
Yeah, it always was years ago.
I
John,
think it's our first day in ours that we really have.
What's that?
I think that might have been changed as an amendment to the back of the book. I can pull up my,
You think it was changed?
I think what you said was changed, I think it's an amendment in the back of the book. Cause you just changed the table, correct? But we have several in the back of the book that are just paper copies. They were gonna be
I
updated.
thought that was all updated.
The paper book is not updated. We're doing that with the next. Remember, the paper book is not updated. The,
Okay.
The online
we have it electronically updated, so like the one that we
Okay.
got. So I don't know if she'll be able to find it
We haven't
easily.
printed the electronic.
We didn't print it,
update yet.
it's on the website. Yeah, I don't recall that as being.
Yeah, that's been around a while. So that's why, if we don't have it in there, then we get it corrected. At that time, that was what, it was part of the changes that we made to get away from the
I didn't see
Workshop
it in
runs.
there.
and the impression I've always had
Well,
was,
this is a pork chop. Pork chop
No.
usually has 20 feet in front, it goes
Uh,
back
yeah,
to a big section. This
they
has 80 feet,
they had the 80-foot frontage.
and he's got the circle, I'm okay with all.
Yeah. Well, that's up to the board.
Make a motion.
Yeah, okay, second.
I have a motion made and seconded to approve it.
But wait,
She's looking up.
I'm just looking at what we just read.
we have to relabel the plan if it's only 80 feet too. Not width.
Says it right
Is
there.
it width or frontage? I mean,
Well, it says frontage.
He's got a
80.
100-foot frontage, he's got an 80-foot diameter circle where he put a house. He's
Correct.
not gonna be able to bring the house back here. The house is gonna be up front. This one's, it's only 3.
No, Tommy, what I'm
Fine.
saying is then the notation might have to be changed on the plan. Like it says lot width, 100 feet, right?
Well, that's what it has in your table of dimensional requirements.
Yeah,
So we may have it, the lot is 100 feet wide
Right,
at your front setback requirement.
okay, at the fence. So that would be.
That was my
same.
understanding
Yeah.
of it.
So you're
Where
20
does it say?
foot plus of the frontage,
Does it say
you know,
in
both.
zoning?
yeah, that's red.
Yeah, you want me to read it again? It says the lot is shaped such that it is capable of containing a circle with a diameter equal to at least the minimum lot frontage for that district, and within any principal building place is the minimum yard requirements from any lot lines.
So it's 8. So it works.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
so the lot width, okay. Nope.
Like I said, if you bring back the diagrams, I think it will help us all.
Yeah, no, I think I did it right. Plans right
But-
through it here.
It has to be 30 feet,
30 feet, right, that's, oh, wait. Oh, no, that's building. Those are your setbacks for buildings.
Well, I had a motion, it's a
So,
second.
now, the front yard.
Yeah, I have a motion made and seconded to endorse.
20 feet to the road.
Do I have any further
Side yard
discussion?
is 15 to the line.
Hearing none, I'll call for the vote, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those say no, motion carries.
I'll call you tomorrow.
Okay, so you'll sign it and you can pick that up tomorrow. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
and for the
No, don't roll them,
clarification.
cause I gotta pull them.
Well, we all learned something. Hold on.
Yeah, John, I don't think that one changed.
Going on there.
Okay, I thought it,
We had a zoning ordinance on lot frontage, and we're working it through the city council right now.
okay,
We do have one, but it's not,
okay. 7:00, open public meeting, city-wide open space and recreation plan. Comments and approval. Reschedule from 8:16. Representative,
Hi,
hi.
my name is Karen Chapman. I'm the Planning and Development Director at Montezuma Regional Planning Commission.
Nice to meet you.
Welcome.
Nice to meet you. I just put together this, I was gonna do a slideshow, but I figured this would be quicker and easier.
Yeah, thank you.
And we'll just
You knew
do
your
better.
audience too. No PowerPoint presentation.
I can point at it for you. So,
I saw you and I'm like, I better do that.
the Open Space Committee was appointed in February or March. They applied for a grant from MRPC. It's a district local technical assistance grant and it's free to the community. So this work was done for free by MRPC. So this is the cover of the plan. I don't know how many of you have read the plan. But this is the cover of the plan. The first page, for public input, we did 2 surveys. The first survey was a public survey. It had 18 questions. It was out for about 5 to 6 weeks. There were 408 responses. And we did an organization survey to like all the sports organizations in the city to see what their, if they had any issues with their properties, which fields they use, stuff like that. And in the public survey, we asked, is the recreation and open space in Leominster satisfactory to you? What kinds of things do you wanna see? What activities do you wanna see? Questions like that. So I just, wanted to do this little circle, what ward number do you live in, just to show that it was pretty equal in the responses from all of the wards. And then I put in question 5, do you feel that your recreation and open space needs are being met? And I just wanted to show that within their ward, more than 60% were happy with what they had. And over 70% were happy with the entire city's open space and recreation. Number 15, I wanted to put in for your benefit, what actions do you favor to preserve open space? And I highlighted mandate the dedication of open space, recreation space by developers. That got almost 50% of the responses. So, I guess my question to you is, you have an open space design bylaw, and do you find people using it and dedicating open space? And is it something that you require them to do?
On the fence, on our open space bylaw that we have, is if someone comes in with a subdivision and they have a standard grid, and let's say, I'll just use wrong figures, we're gonna build 24 houses on 24 acres. And they get a grid, and that would, by putting in your roads and cul-de-sacs and detention ponds and stuff, you can still get those 24 houses on that 24 acres. If you go to open space, okay, you can put those 24 houses on 12 acres. It doesn't mean the other 12 acres become available. Those become okay, they either go into a homeowners association in perpetuity, or they can be donated to the city, to the conservation department, okay? So that's up to the homeowners at the time that the subdivision or the developer, when it's up. So we have about 8 or 9, 10 open space subdivisions in town right now, which total, I forget what the number is now, but a pretty good number, okay? Now, most of those are homeowners association, where each homeowner gets on his tax bill, might be $50 or something like that. And the space is open, and people walk. I know my son lives in one, Tommy lives in one, and there are some trails through a number of these places where it's pretty much just easy walking trails and stuff like that.
So that open space is only open to the homeowners association?
Every one of the
people that
open
live-
spaces, no. And part of the ordinance is the open space has to open up to a public road.
Okay.
So each one has some kind of an entrance somewhere, where people could walk in and walk through their property.
So we just had a proposal a couple of meetings ago, the development off of Jocelyn,
Right.
where they were gonna dedicate a bunch of open space, and there's gonna be a 30-foot.
Right away.
45.
Okay, but I mean, is it realistically accessible to the public? There's no parking on the cul-de-sac.
No, there's no parking lot,
Signage.
it's just walking and
Public
stuff.
space, but.
We don't impose that, we're more interested in the open space being natural, okay? What we've found is because of that open space, is the homes in those subdivisions that have open space, their value is much higher than a standard grid. Okay, even though the lots are a little bit smaller, and in some cases, the lots are still, they put 24 houses on 50 acres. But they just got, like the one we was just talking about now, and it's coming before us, it's a considerable, and still each house is gonna be on at least a half-acre lot, if not larger.
It's a big space. Lot.
Yeah, and it's still gonna be done under the auspices of open space.
Well, and you guys are probably aware that nationally research has shown houses that are built next to good trails have an increase in value as well.
Oh, yeah.
So it isn't a detriment to encourage the developers to put trails on that open space land.
Well, they're supposed to at the time they do it, but there's no requirement, we don't have any requirement, because most of my home, neighborhoods, at the time, we didn't require it, we always can change it, is that on anything new, we can't do it on the old ones, that the trails be maintained, but with the homeowners association, we do that. Where it's all individual, we don't, so it's one of these things, I think we were more concerned about getting the open space on the books. And in the open space plan, when I read it and I looked at it, they are all listed that we have today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you know, John, what the mechanism is for ensuring when a developer uses the open space development avenue, who is it in the city, what board or one individual is responsible for ensuring that that transfer of the land either goes into a homeowners association or gifted to the city or another eligible land trust or nonprofit?
This board. So that's all part of the conditions that we set forth when a subdivision is approved.
But it does have to go through the city council if it's
Yeah,
going to accept it.
If it's gonna go to this, we would then, if they want a homeowners association, they have to have a homeowners association, we have to approve that. But if they wanna give it to the city, then we recommend that the land, and we get the deeds done properly, and then that land goes to the city council. At that point, they accept it, or don't accept it, it's up to the city council
And
at
is
that
it
point.
typical that that acceptance occurs after the development is done? Or is
Yes,
it
well, no,
possible?
it's planned in advance. So we know in advance it has to be done. And prior to the completion, okay, the conditions, when we go through our final, and we hold the bond, okay, as the plan goes, and we hold the bond, and once, before the bond is released, the action has to have been taken on that property. Okay,
Any other conditions?
so, but we hold that's all part of our conditions
Yeah.
of acceptance at the end, that you have to have a bond and it has to be released, okay? So it's not that you have to give it to the conservation
Right.
or the rec, because we left that at, we were more concerned to getting the open space and allowing developers
Yeah.
to put into, a smaller lots.
Yep.
Okay,
I like that.
I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that Dick is one of the co-chairs of the Open Space Committee.
okay,
Along with Judy Sumner and
right.
Wendy Wynn, and Angela.
No.
Sheffield.
Okay. Okay, so the next page, open space and recreation goals, there were 5 overarching goals, I'm not gonna read them because you can read them. And under those 5 overarching goals, they came up with 47 individual objectives that you can read in the plan. And under those objectives, 152 tasks. So the next page shows how they set up an implementation schedule, I just showed you the first page here. Say what the objectives are and they're labeled, so objective 1A would go to the first goal, and then there's all the tasks under that, who's responsible, when it started, when it will be completed, the estimated cost, and the priority, medium, high, or low. So this is their plan for the next 7 years. The next page are ones that I took out that have planning department listed in them. Objective 3E, complete a plan to create a trail loop around the city. And it says, work with planning department to investigate feasibility, so I guess that would be worked out between Elizabeth and the open space committee.
Right,
And then conduct a feasibility study for creating Manusnaut Brook Trail from Pierce Pond to North Nashville River. And that is prepare an RFP for a feasibility study. So those are the 2 that list the planning department.
okay,
The next one is a map of they took the top 10 actions and put it on a map. And so these are the top 10 actions that they want to address in this 7-year period. You can see number 4 on the top left, make critical trail connections. And then there's a 4 on the very bottom in the middle, make critical trail connections. That's, that's a goal of the Open Space Committee, but also should be a goal of the city. If you guys see that there's gonna be development in that area or anything happening in that area and that you can contribute to the connection of those trails, go ahead.
Just a perfect example of that is the development going on or that has begun at the back end of Pierce Pond. That proposed, you guys required a proposed a trail corridor in that.
right,
And that would make the connection between the Doyle Center and the trails up on Newsnack Ridge. We have considered that a critical connection for the last 2 decades. And hopefully Peter will follow through when his development is done and establish that, and you'll be able to park at Doyle and hike up to the top of North
And all the way
Newsnack.
over to Shoreland Farm.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Now, do you have any, on this critical trail connections, do you have the actual, has anybody tried to map that out and come up with a connection that would work?
Oh, well, there's a number of critical trail connections. For instance, we are working on a critical trail connection from Barrett Park to the Monoosuc Hill Trails. We're looking at critical connections within the Monoosuc Ridge Trail to other points in the watershed lands. For instance, we just created a new connection from the north Monoosuc Hilltop down to Mount Elam Road, and then we will connect from there eventually to Palmetto Road, which is on the south end by the Sportsman's Club.
A little further up.
So, so there are a couple of parcels that the city, it would be nice if the city could acquire them to facilitate this long distance trail loop. And so there are a number of those. I don't think we've mapped out, I mean, it would be kind of interesting to produce a map entitled Critical Connections and to show those so that, you
So
know.
that we could see.
You know that,
Yeah,
okay? And like, we were lucky enough that we got an input on Pierce Pond, okay? And we wanna make sure that we get that input, so that we can work with them.
yeah,
So, and most of the developers are pretty good with, you know, like, especially if they're doing open space, and it happens to fall into the critical path, then we can work out something.
yeah.
But we've gotta know where that is, then we can focus on it.
Well, two of the things that this plan calls for, and again, it's, the purpose of this plan for almost every community is to make those communities eligible for state grants. And the city has been very good, very aggressive, going after state grants for recreation and open space. So this draft, when we finish it and I'll put it in there, will make us eligible again for the next 7-year period for those grants. But two of the things that we are looking at is, one, to try and get the city to establish an ongoing permanent open space and open space committee. Right now, the open space committee only comes together to renew the plan. There is no, quote, open space committee that is constantly advising the administration or the planning department or anybody. We don't exist on an ongoing basis. Many communities have formal open space committees, and they're more on top of acquisition and leads and, you know, because a lot of this is timing.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if you're in the right spot, ready to acquire these parcels when they become available, it happens more frequently than not. So we're gonna look to see if the city, the mayor's office and city council will establish a permanent open space committee. It would be great as part of that group that somebody from the planning commission be a member of that, to facilitate communication and collaboration.
Right.
You know, you guys know better than I how critical and how important your board is to what gets developed here in the city. I mean, there's no stronger and more important voice than that.
Yeah.
Having you guys aware of, you know, trails and recreation and other needs here in the city, as well as the development needs, that collaboration is, I think, critical for us to do the best job we can.
Okay. No, sounds good. If you're gonna form that committee, I would be in favor of that. I don't have a problem with that, because that's why we developed the open space years and years ago, because we.
Yep.
And it's bits and pieces, but it's starting to fall together,
Well,
pretty good,
we also need to more aggressively push the donations to the open space fund.
Well,
I mean, we send out a notice every year, but it's a pretty passive, low-key
Mhm.
approach. And I think we need to be more proactive. You all know, we're getting down to a point where major open space parcels are getting pretty limited in the city. And I think in the next 2 decades, we need to acquire those key parcels.
okay. I'll give you a heads up, and maybe you can work with a developer or something like that, is that on Willard Street, that piece of property, where that Somerset, and that probably could hit a critical section in there.
Yeah,
That they're gonna have a homeowners association. That the very, I think the document is like 35 pages long. Okay, but they are, they would be, they may be open to, that's your committee or the trail stewards or whoever, or the rec department to work with them and say, give them the opportunities. And
Right.
so that would be, we can give you that's in process today, and changes are still more than doable. So what I'm saying is be proactive. If somebody contacts that developer and say, hey, we'd like to tie some of your land, your open space, because it is open space, some of your open space into it, and it would work, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't work, I don't know.
Yeah. no.
Okay, but I'm just saying-
The opportunity is
The opportunity is
the thing to
there.
have.
That's the first one that
Yeah.
we know that's in place today. The second one, which is mentioned to us off of Pierce Street, and that's, they're just in the development stages now and preliminary plans.
Right.
So there are a number of changes that we
Yeah.
there. So those are the two that I would say that
Yeah.
would have some input at this time.
So, along with the formation of a permanent open space committee, we're also trying to create or ask the city how they feel about creating a trail commission. Sort of like the Doyle Field Commission. It
Yeah.
has a little more recognition and a little more legitimacy and authority. We've got 45 miles of trails. We have no resources other than volunteer help and volunteer pocketbooks. And all of these 45 miles of trails are on city property.
Yeah.
It takes a fair amount of time and effort and resources to maintain them.
No, I think it's good. I think the work you guys have done, you and the trail stewards and Doyle and all that, and I think, but yeah, that goes to the other board, the city council, and talk to those guys and
Yep.
and say, hey, this is form this commission and the mayor, and it's doable,
Yeah, I think it is too.
And
Sounds
we'll be doing a presentation to the city council on Monday night.
Okay. The only other thing that I had was when I was reading reading through it, there was not typo so much as there's a correction that talk about zoning. And in that section, you mentioned that in rural residential and residential A, in the water protection district, that the zoning is 3 acres.
Yeah.
It is not, okay?
2 acres?
No, rural residential and rural is an acre, residential A is half acre. But the overlay district, and this is a technicality, okay, is the water protection district.
Yep.
So if either one of those fall into the water protection district, then it jumps to 3 acres. Okay, so the subdivision itself, or the zoning, is not the 3
You
acres,
can make that
it's the
correction.
overlay protection
Yeah.
district.
Gotcha.
Wasn't it 1,000 feet to the water?
Well, yeah, that's how your district is set up.
Yeah, 2,000 is 2 acres, 3,000
Yeah, okay?
Is this a public document, publicly accessible,
No.
the web?
Do you wanna borrow it?
Well, I'd like to know
I
if
think it is on the,
accessible on
I
the web.
thought Judy put it up on the city website.
I didn't see it.
Oh, well, I
But
think
that
that
doesn't
is the
mean anything.
intent. It's in draft form now. We welcome any and all comments. You know, we're trying to get it to the final stage so we
Yeah.
can submit it and have the city be eligible for grants again.
So
So,
it looks
yeah,
good. I see a thing you got in here for Prospect Park, and I've been pushing Prospect Park. Like,
The dog park, the
Dog-
skate park,
it-
I can't see how many.
Here's my next door neighbor.
we have been talking about
Love it.
trying to go for a park grant. You know, it's PARC, and I forget what all those letters stand for.
Yeah,
But I think there's a maximum of $400,000 that the city would be eligible for. And then the city usually puts in like 250 grand for that. We would love to upgrade Prospect Park. Don't get me wrong, it's a nice little area right now, but it could be so much more.
oh, it could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
You got
mean,
36 acres there, so,
Yep.
and it primarily Boy Scouts have kept that open.
Well,
In the
we-
early years, now the
Yeah.
trail stewards are doing it, you know?
I've been working there for over a decade. so-
Yeah. So.
And they would never consider me a Boy Scout. I'm sorry.
Well, that originally.
We don't know the real Boy Scout.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions or comments? or
No, but what do we
anything
have
else,
to
Mike?
do with this? We just keeping it open?
No, it's just that, we can make a motion to accept the plan as presented
Oh,
to
okay.
us.
So we
And,
should, well, we need to close it then.
And then we have to close it, and, close the hearing, and then we'll go, you know, and so then we'll make our recommendation to the, city council. Okay? So, do I have anything else, any other questions, or? Okay, so a motion would be in order to close the open public meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to close open public meeting on the citywide open space recreation plan. Any additions or questions that we want to add?
Just
Okay.
one. So anybody who wants to make recommendations, if you will email them to Judy Sumner, she'll get them to Karen, and the plan will be finalized that way.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
all in favor of the motion to close the public meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
That's great.
Thank you.
I know.
Good work, guys.
I know the work.
Yeah.
Okay. 7:15, public hearing for a special permit work in the watershed protection to Overlake District, 981 Pleasant Street.
I have a letter.
If you got the letter,
Okay. Do you wanna give any background, or do you wanna just get straight?
why don't you read the letter and I'll give them the background.
Okay. I have a letter from Scott Hayes, Principal Engineer of Foresight Engineering, representing the applicant. Elizabeth, I had a phone call with the building commissioner, Peter Nile, today about the zoning issue we were made aware of today regarding the watershed protection special permit application before the planning board for 981 Pleasant Street. It appears the applicant has some options available to address this issue and would like the opportunity to make revisions to the special permit application to that end. On behalf of the applicant, Jessica C. Pierce Living Trust, I hereby request a continuation of the public hearing for 981 Pleasant Street scheduled tonight, 9/20/21, until the board's next scheduled hearing, with the applicant intends to either be prepared to present a revised plan for this application or request other action of the board as determined to be appropriate by the applicant at that time.
I move we table the meeting until October, what is it, the 4th?
Let me give an explanation.
That's an explanation.
Okay. The explanation is that when we reviewed the drawings, we found that we just talked about it with the recreation plan, is as the current zoning reads, is you need a special permit first from the planning board. And second, because of the overlay district, the water protection, that the requirement jumps to 3 acres. So you have to have both the 3 acres and the special permit. What we believe happened was, a recommendation was that just to the planning board for the special permit. The zoning is the city council, okay, so we're looking for a clarification on that. So that's why we're having it continued,
I move we table it till October 4th at 6:35.
A
okay?
sea of red tape.
6:35.
We only have one thing.
Well, we can't, I mean, I think that isn't that the retail marijuana, I think that's gonna,
6:45.
I don't know, I'm thinking it may create some, yeah, whatever. 6:35.
6:35.
6:35?
That's the
The
motion.
letter from Foresight Reserves refers to 985 Pleasant Street. The rest of the
That was the A and
documentation-
R. The A and R was 985 Pleasant Street, and the address of the property is 981 Pleasant Street.
Okay, you have a motion?
I have a motion made in second to continue the public hearing for special permit to October 4th at 6:35. Do we have any further discussion? Here none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Sorry, who seconded that? Somebody seconded.
Me,
Sal.
Thanks, Sal. Thank you.
Okay. 3.2, oh, we approved that. Okay. 4.1, Ava Way, provide board with most recent status.
Yes, I have an update on Ava Way. We went with our lowest bidder for work, and that was Whitman and Bingham. And they're contracted out for the amount of $10,000 to do street acceptance plan, as-built and profile, utility work, as-built and profile, water as-built, set granite and bounds. And that was it. That's what's gonna cover.
Okay. And where do we stand on that?
It was issued at the beginning of the month by the purchase order was made at the beginning of the month, so we need an update.
Do we have a date of completion?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay. So that's in the process. Okay, new business, special permit for Central Street, Mechanic Street, map 16, parcels 3, 5, 5A, 9, 13, 14, 26 for work in the floodplain, Leominster Brook.
I move we recommend,
Did you want me to read for the record the special permit criteria?
Oh, that's okay.
No, that's all right.
and I move we recommend this proposal.
Yeah, for this one? Yeah, I think that's pretty well done.
I note that all the department heads approved, the Board of Health said consider potential impacts on abutters during construction and need permits for septic and well.
So you're gonna make a big mess when they clear it all up.
Yeah.
It'll be
Big
beautiful
hole.
when they're done.
There'll be a year or so that whole area we saw.
So recommend approval,
He's not happy, but
department head comments.
he's got,
Yeah, they were not.
that's better than what they were gonna do originally. Originally, they were gonna take it out,
Your second?
take out the parking lot totally.
So all motion, I second.
Outside of the operation.
We got that, John?
Okay, I have a motion made and seconded to recommend approval to the city council of special permit for Central Street, Mechanic Street, map 16. Any additions, deletions, corrections? I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. Petition 7521 referral from city council, dumpster zoning amendment.
I move to approve the amendment along with the health director's comments and starting from all dumpsters and ending at all times.
I second.
Well, we had a slight change. Oh, yes, full dumpster.
Yeah.
Right. As
From all
written.
dumpsters to all times.
Okay,
And that was the way you read it to us.
right. Anything else that you wanna add to that?
Oh, yeah, we want it to say dumpsters smaller than 10 yards.
10 yards.
Okay,
And you already.
As read.
As
Okay.
right.
Obviously.
Yes, that's right.
okay.
That was the correct statement that you have.
Okay? Any other discussion on that?
That's a good job.
I have a motion and a second.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both say no. Motion carries.
You said we didn't need to do anything with the open space plan?
Open space recreation plan comments and approval. I,
Make a motion.
no, we don't approve it, but you recommend approval to the city council.
Approval of what?
Yeah,
Document?
the plan
Meeting to
itself.
recommend.
Not the plan, the overall plan.
Perhaps we should just alert the city council who've been
We'll just recommend.
informed of the
Yeah,
of the plan.
Yeah, I don't think we're ready.
it's just a recommendation.
That's, they're looking for.
No, they're required to
They're
make a
looking for it.
presentation to us. So just like everything else, is any recommendation coming to us, our following is to the city council. So when it gets to them to say, hey, went to the planning board, they looked at it. We did have a couple of corrections, and they'll make those corrections and they'll go forward.
So what's the motion?
So I don't, that's what I'm asking.
Mm-hmm.
What
Move to accept
It's
the
a recommend-
The
plan.
motion we recommend to the city
Comments
council.
provided by the chairman.
Right. Motion by Jason,
Second by Tom.
second by Tom. Any further discussion? Here none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both say no, motion carries.
Oh, you preach it.
Special permit for work on the watershed protection overlay district 981 Pleasant Street map 381 parcel 11 lot 1B.
saw it.
This has been continued. Okay, communications. Modification of site plan for 40 and 42 Francis Street, map 318 parcel 17A, 17B. Board to determine whether this is a minor or major modification. You explain it, yeah, I'll let you, yeah, I'll let you, but, yeah.
I'm here. Just Chris Anderson, planning administrator for the record. So, board might remember, we came back before you guys about a year or so ago for the leak tight building addition. Two existing structures at 40 and 42, we were gonna put about a 38,000 square foot structure on there to essentially span the two buildings. Since that time, upper management of the company has changed and they want to redirect how they want to do their building addition and future work on the site. So now it's proposed to just construct a straight 7,000 and some change building addition to just provide a sheltered, quote unquote, connection between the two buildings. As part of that, we are maintaining a lot of the drainage system and criteria and designs that we had done for the overall site along the backside relative to conservation. So we are maintaining a lot of that infrastructure as well, and just trying to clean up the site a little bit here and there to hit the required parking that the end user ultimately needs. Or to remember that there's the shift change was the primary area of concern, so we're still providing that parking count to make sure we're all compliant with how they want to operate their business. Besides that, it's moderately the same kind of project, just trying to dial back the scope of it entirely.
So they're scaling it back from what, 38,000?
38 to about 7 4.
Yeah.
That's not just a bit.
But you're still gonna take care of all the drainage and that,
Yep.
all
So
that stays the
There's
same.
a new drainage report.
So, how many additional spaces, parking spaces are you putting in, Chris? You have a total of 134, but how many are,
existing.
yes,
If I remember correctly, well, it's actually less. Do not know that number off the top of my head. I apologize.
Oh. Is it fewer than 10?
Oh yeah, no, it's existing parking is probably on the order around 60 or 70 spaces total on the site. So we are
You're doubling it.
You're essentially doubling the parking count, but the parking count from the original approval to now is the same.
The same.
Including that other larger building.
Correct. So
Okay,
overall,
I just wanna make sure, so you're adding almost 7,400 square feet, then you say to accommodate the facility, a total of 134 parking spaces are proposed.
because of the shift change. So between the first and the second shifts, right now they have issues with parking and trucks coming in and out of the site. So the parking design has been accommodated so that they can take both shifts at the same time. So
Okay.
that
That's why.
So when you originally presented the plan to us, how many parking spaces were you proposing then, I guess?
It was
153.
132,
153 right now. It was still a large number.
133?
53.
So you're reducing the parking then?
134, sorry.
So it's the same amount?
It's the exact same amount.
Okay, that's what all right.
Same amount.
Same amount.
So not adding parking and it's 7,400 square feet, okay. Then I think that's because
Yeah,
if you think about it, the subdivision, you require 10 parking spaces, 10,000 square feet. Here's same number of parking spaces in less than 10,000 square feet. So now because when I first read that, I didn't think that was minor, but now
Yeah, me neither. But you're also replacing a much larger building.
right.
Correct.
Smaller.
You think it's
Okay.
minor?
You don't think this is a minor, well, are you asking for this to be
We're requesting it
approved
to
as
be approved as a minor modification.
that's the reason I'm asking this
Approved as a
question.
minor.
If you don't think it's minor,
I mean,
then,
if you're taking the project and cutting it by 3/4, that doesn't sound minor.
30,000 square feet.
But you're
I don't
reducing, not
under-
expanding.
well,
True.
No?
I'm
And
not
we
saying
have-
it's not important, but it's,
Right.
but it's not minor. I mean, I guess it depends on how you define the word.
well, maybe I misunderstood. Maybe I'm misunderstanding. I thought you're adding 7,400 square feet?
No,
No.
The original
They're
plan was
reducing.
38,000 square feet, this one's now gonna be 70.
30,000
So
square
they're
feet.
reducing it by 30,000 square feet. That's just not minor.
Well, I misunderstood then.
I mean, I don't know.
Well,
I concur with
It's,
your
the thing is,
logic on the definition.
I know,
of
but
minor
I didn't-
modification, but
I
I do
mean-
think that reducing it is kind of not in the spirit of making it a major.
yeah,
I do too, and not reducing the parking based on the larger
mean-
square footage is not,
in this case, I look at it as the parking stays the same.
Yeah.
Okay,
smaller.
the building footprint,
well, because this is what I'm reading
Yeah.
the application, and it says, the applicant is proposing to construct 7,400 square foot building addition to connect the two existing structures. The use is office, manufacturing, warehouse to accommodate the facility, a total of 100, I mean, so when I read this, I wasn't,
Did you say you eliminated the
No.
other
It's
piece?
in his
Well,
letter, right?
I mean, it's not a matter of whether it's a minor or,
But that's what's on the agenda, whether it's a minor or major modification.
yeah, so that's what
Yeah.
we're here to, so if we consider it minor, we're voting tonight, if we get, but to me, it's neither minor nor major, it's a completely different plan.
Because
That's
the
different.
original approval had an industrial building addition of 37,740 square feet. This one now says we're gonna construct a smaller building of 7,394 square feet. Everything else is basically the same.
yeah.
So I guess there's only one change if you wanna count that as minor, but that's a pretty large minor change.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I don't think minor or major, neither one, the terms don't apply, it's a different plan.
It's a different, it's a new
What do you do
plan.
about it? I don't
It's
wanna
really
make-
a
I don't wanna make
substitute
them go
plan.
back to the drawing board and start over again, that doesn't seem fair either.
Through the chair, I know it might be 20/20 hindsight, but we did get a lot of department head comments back. With the exception of the typical comment you get from fire, they are pretty much all set with the project.
Oh, yeah, they're all,
I can't say
everybody's,
I'm complaining about
they're-
doing
we're not
this.
complaining about the
That's
project.
fine,
we just wanna make sure we do this properly, so that you don't get a comeback at you from somebody, you okay?
Right.
It's,
Right.
your protection, our
I mean,
protection.
again, sure they all approve, but we have plans subdivision plans we've seen or site plans that we've seen for the first time and all the department heads approve it. I mean, and you know why they've approved it? Cause they got to review it, we didn't, we didn't even get, I mean, I think it should have a public informational meeting, but I don't mean to be difficult, but.
Do you wanna schedule
Okay.
it?
Why don't we do that then?
That's a good way to resolve it.
It's
Okay.
cleaner.
It is,
And then we get everything
that's pretty
we
tough for
need.
them to set up that.
Do you wanna schedule it for October 4th?
How is it setting, all they have to do is, he has the
2
plan,
weeks.
all he has to do is
All the
submit.
plan is here.
All he has to do is present it.
And then we cover everything.
You're right, that is the cleanest way.
10-4,
Is that enough
time?
What are the
Yeah,
ramifications
10
of
or
us
6
classifying this as a major or a minor modification?
If it's if we consider it a minor, we just vote now and approve it without him presenting it.
Yeah,
And if we consider a major, we schedule it for a public informational meeting, and then it goes on the agenda under at the top as a open meeting.
Site plan.
We don't have to, I don't think we have to notify
No,
abutters or
It's a public information.
or
not a
notice.
it's a public information meeting, no.
For site plan,
Yes.
just like
And
any
then
other
we'll
site
have the
plan.
whole plan in front of us, and Chris can present everything to us.
Yeah, we've got the plan.
Yeah, we've got the plan, but Chris can present it all.
Yeah.
And come to a conclusion that, we know is legal.
It means that it's the scheduling part that kills. So why don't we do that? Why don't we schedule it? Okay, we'll, in that case, you would say, just for vernacular, that it is a major modification and would require a schedule. And that would be for the next meeting.
So 6-4 or 10-4 at.
6:45.
Yeah.
You said 6:40 the first time.
I need 6:40, I just put it 5 minutes after the last one.
6:40.
Okay?
40.
No, that's good, 40's good.
What do you got? 6:30, 6:35?
6:30, 6:30, so we don't have any.
We get 6:30, 6:40.
I wrote it in.
Oh, that's good. I'm not gonna have to worry about it.
Okay?
No.
So a motion is in order to schedule this. No. The question is, that the motion is, this is a major modification and required a, open public meeting. Open public meeting?
Public information.
Public information meeting on, okay, October 4th at 6:40. Okay?
Thank you.
Motion, do I have a motion?
all night.
Motion made, do I have a second on that? Paul seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no, motion carries. Request for bond release for Katie Lane, discuss status, next step.
But, I mean,
You have an email in your packet.
Sports flying.
You have an email in your packet dated August 5th. We received a request from the developer in August requesting that we release a $100,000 bond on Katy Lane. So as a result, the initial step we took was to have the DPW do an inspection of Katy Lane and tell us what the status was. So we got an email from John Roseberry dated August 5th with a list of 7 items that he says to be outstanding.
oh, yeah,
This is way.
Is,
And
Yeah.
the chairman and I did go inspect the,
we look,
we got the plans and we looked at the plans. And we inspected
do
the,
that one, I missed that one.
does anybody need
I
a
have
copy
to
of
let
the
it
email? Yes, that's it.
Yeah, as you can see, there's,
Kenny Lane's been a mess for quite a while.
Katy Lane's a mess, and what we found was, we did in fact find the drawings for Katy Lane. And on the proposed drawings, they showed the cutaway of the street, showing that,
Do you wanna?
1.5 feet, I think she's got a copy of it there.
Thanks.
1.5 feet of gravel base, and then your subcoat, and then your top coat, okay? Well, as you can see in the report there, they have found that the subbase is not gravel. The subbase is regrind.
Yeah.
Okay, which is not acceptable. And then, when we actually went there, you could see there's a hole, there's a cul-de-sac, and there's a hole at the bottom of the cul-de-sac, it's about that deep. And you can see the finished layer, the bituminous layer, and then you can see the rebrine in the hole. So, what's that? Xeris. Well, I don't know who the contractor was. No, he was the developer from, yeah, he was the developer from day one. Who the actual contractor is, I don't know.
Do you need a motion to not release the bond, is that what we're doing?
I think what we need is a motion to exercise the bond, okay? To get, quotes to finish the work.
The problem, you don't have enough money to come close to it.
Well, let's see what we got.
See what it costs.
Okay, let's get a quote and find out just how
Just don't
much
get it
of
from
that.
Paul.
$116,000, right, you know?
I-
So there's no way that he's gonna get his money back, but I think we should start the process
Fine.
and see how far we can get with the money that we have. So the next motion would be, is for us to, again, just like we did on Ava Way, to get an independent engineer, to look at the, to come back with an estimate on how much the work would take.
All right, I make that motion, what he said.
Second.
Do you wanna put a dollar amount on it?
No, because you gotta.
No, we gotta find out, we have to get a quote.
I mean, a cap on the quote, cause it's gonna
No,
cost.
no, let's just see what,
Well, you don't wanna spend it all on
the
the
pricing is, cause. it
Oh,
Oh,
may
a
be
cap
less.
on the estimate
Yeah,
itself,
you're gonna need to do
Yeah.
the work. You don't
I
want-
thought we could go with Green International, Bill Scully's firm.
So
we
you're
have to get
saying-
free-
Now, we keep it under
Yeah.
5,000, we don't have to go to,
we have to send it out.
Yeah.
we have to send
We
it
can't
out.
just give it to somebody.
Even if it's under a certain value.
You
Oh, I
have to,
don't, that I
If
don't
it's
know.
over 5.
no.
So do we have to get 3?
Well,
I don't know, I guess it depends.
That, work through purchaser.
Just pay me on all and spend
You
money.
want some money.
Hey, well, you don't need it.
Okay, yeah. Why don't we work through purchasing, but I think motion is sufficient,
But
and
the motion is
then you
to
get into
release,
some
the
edits.
motion releases, allows me to go to the treasurer department.
To release the bond?
Right,
No,
no, what the,
no.
what the, no. What the motion will do, will release, give her authority to go to the, to get a quote, and then to release the funds required to match that quote, to find out how much it's gonna cost to fix the road.
Can't we just have DPW tell us how much it's gonna
Yeah.
cost?
Their numbers have not been, we've
Accurate.
been never accurate. Okay,
They're not contract.
But, well, okay, then my next question is, who's paying for that?
that would come out of the bond money that we
And I
hold.
think that's Elizabeth's point, like, what's
Yeah.
the cap
Yeah.
to that?
Oh, you mean for the,
So we don't know what the quote's gonna be.
No.
You gotta set it.
no.
But are we saying we don't wanna
Yes.
spend more than X?
Yeah, how much do we approve? Do we
You
approve
did
up
10,000 for this one we just did, and that's not a long one, as long
No, that was different. On the work they did on Ava Way was actually work, they had to go out and set the bounds and draw the, and draw up the whole, what they have there, okay? And it was all the survey work and all the rest of that. That's what that $10,000 for. This is strictly for an engineering company to go out there and measure it, you know,
See how
take
much it will
measures.
cost. for the
They've got the information from the DPW and the course, so they say, okay, the road is 500 feet long, I don't know how long it is. And to build a road properly at 500 feet long would cost us kind of money.
It shouldn't be very expensive.
Not an expert. Wouldn't
So-
engineers-
Yeah, the road is the problem.
Wouldn't engineers plan to give you an estimate since we're gonna hire somebody to work with one building employees? So why do we have to pay anything? If you say we're looking for people to do this work, but we need estimates so we can find out who has the,
Why don't we just not take any action on it at all?
well, because we want to.
So I'd like to get it cleared up. We can't let it sit with $116,000, and the road is deteriorating, so the road's gotta be fixed.
And he's not gonna do it, it appears.
He wants on it,
Since he thinks.
Yeah, he wants it, well, he thinks he's all done.
In the,
No,
in
what,
the,
what,
in
I
the
mean,
first line of the letter, it says most of the work has been completed. That means the work has not been completed.
That's
why don't we
it.
just send a
That's
letter
right.
back to him saying that the work has not been completed, the DPW has found these conditions to exist, and these all have to be repaired before it
By
goes to
X
bond.
date, otherwise.
Give him the option to do it, and we're out of the loop,
That's
Either it's
bad.
done or it's not.
right?
Okay,
So,
We wanna
so
send it
that's
to
my
him?
motion.
that's, okay,
But you gotta
I
put a date on
rescind
this.
my motion.
You gotta put a date on that. It's gotta be
Oh,
done
let's
by
put a
X
date
date.
on
So
it,
letter
we'll put a date of, well, he's
So
gonna
you
want
want
his
a letter
money,
to
so
the
let's.
developer written to complete the work by a date certain.
Yeah, just say, look,
Well, they have to come back within a month. What's with the
So
plan?
do we know what the motion is? Do we know what the motion is to send a letter to the developer listing the shortcomings of the road as expressed by the Department of Public Works and give them the line items? Then we say, you know, these conditions exist, if your bond is to be released, these need to be corrected and inspected by the city by November first.
And if not, then.
And if not, the city will take action, to use the bond as payment for moving forward, to secure, whatever.
That's our first, that's our
That
first
works,
meeting in
right?
November anyway.
That's
Yeah,
the
that would
letter.
We
work.
can come back to them.
I second salesman.
So, you know, it's just a simple letter saying, look, here's, you know, you want to release your bond, but here's what the DPW says exists. So we need it either cleaned up and brought up to standard, or we will use the bond to do that ourselves, but we want to give them the heads up. That's the gist of it.
Alright,
Okay,
motion,
that would work.
second,
Good job.
But he gives
Motion
him
by
the
Sal.
components.
second by Paul.
Second by Paul. Any further discussion on this?
Nope.
Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Say no. Motion carries.
This is the one we're
I
on.
don't know, I'm exhausted.
No, we get 6.3. Proposed zoning amendment pertaining to accessory in-law apartments. Request board approval. Petition city council on behalf of the planning board.
Alright. This came, you're gonna read through on this one? Chair?
Yes, he does.
Okay, so the mayor came to me with some concerns that he had about accessory apartments. And he noticed his trends in the city. He noticed that sometimes, ownership would shift. And the owner neither lived in the apartment nor the main residence. So he wants language in our zoning that would require the owner to either reside in the accessory apartment or the main residence. And that he doesn't want this, cause this is allowed in the most restrictive zone there is, this is allowed in residential A. And so, doesn't want it turning into multifamily housing, because it should be single family housing.
That's right.
So, he thinks we should write into the requirement that the occupant of the in-law apartment should be a relative.
Doesn't say that already? I'm surprised.
And then, you
I don't
know,
think it said that.
and plus, I mean.
I thought it did.
I thought it did too.
Yeah, but the big
I mean,
deal
that-
is they sell the house, and all of a sudden, you know,
Can you give
got,
them
somebody buys it for an investment, and they put two renters.
I have
Yeah,
the
I know,
ordinance.
but if the ordinance already calls for that,
Yeah,
Let's see.
I thought it already said that.
What you have in front of you is the existing language is in black, and the proposed language is in red and underlined. So you can see what was existing
Did I miss it?
easily. There's a memo. It was in your August 16th packet because this got continued.
That explains.
okay.
I have my copy here, if someone needs
And
one.
that's the actual ordinance?
It's,
They don't have it.
And this is
here, I'll give you my copy.
It's not in there?
This is what exists and this is the proposal.
And then there was also, where accessory apartments were getting built to be gargantuan,
Yeah.
in size, to where they were more than an accessory. In,
Oh, I'll read. What you got? The red is proposed? No accessory in-law suite shall be held in separate ownership from the principal dwelling. An accessory in-law suite must be located within a single-family dwelling, and the owner of the dwelling must occupy either the principal dwelling unit or the accessory in-law suite.
I know, it's.
The accessory apartment shall be occupied by persons related to the owner or vice versa. The
That's
owner
what
may
I'm
live in the necessary accessory apartment, and the main residence may be occupied by persons related to the owner.
Those are proposed, or that's what
Either
That's
proposed.
proposed.
This is what but John, before you go on, it says, maybe we need to make it more specific, but it's already in here. The purpose of the accessory apartment article is to expand types of housing permitted to the city, provided, to provide opportunities for persons who may need or desire to share the premises of a single-family residence with relatives to do so.
Nay, it's not as, it's not as
limited.
tight. And it's, people are finding loopholes in it and using it,
It isn't as strong.
and it's not
Just doing
enforceable.
it, not finding loopholes.
Yeah.
They're doing it.
They're doing
Yeah.
it.
They can do it no matter what.
So he wants to tighten it up. So I propose language that would make it more clearly.
Well, I don't know, it's fine, an accessory apartment, the thing is that we're not enforcing it. I don't know if language is gonna change it. An accessory apartment special permit may be issued solely in the name of the record owners of a single-family residence dwelling premises and terminates upon either the transfer of the ownership of the premises, except in the instance where there is a transfer between co-owners, or cessation of the record owner's occupancy of either the single-family residence dwelling or the accessory apartment as his, her, or their principal place of residence.
What terminates?
So they sell it, then the agreement
And
goes away.
the special permit
The
terminates.
special permit. So they're supposed to get a special permit for it.
Well, we do that.
And
Do the special permit.
or permanent occupancy of either the single-family dwelling or the accessory apartment by persons unrelated to the record owners. For the purposes of this section, a bona fide temporary absence will not be considered a cessation of occupancy, and a bona fide temporary occupancy by guests will not be considered permanent occupancy. I don't care if you wanna change the language, but to me, it's in here, and I
Yeah,
think the
pretty.
problem is, we're not enforcing it.
There's a lot of that going on. Not enough people to enforce.
Oh,
I wonder if
An
anybody
accessory
even
apartment,
checked
the single
one.
family dwelling does not
That one check,
authorize
they sell the
apartment, multifamily, or
property.
Remember we
two-family
had
dwelling.
the fellow come in, wanted to have the garage off of Pleasant Street or Wachusett Street, and then there was an apartment over the garage, and then it turned into a whole thing.
We've never,
And the other
The
issue
neighbor
comes,
complains.
the other issue comes in
It was
is that
nice
when they're
apartment.
doing the title search,
Over the garage.
when they're selling the property and someone's doing the title search before the closing, the special permit should be recorded. And that should be part of the chain of title in the title report. And it's not being caught, or maybe an
no
innocent
process.
innocent
Yes.
buyer's thinking like, oh wow, look, I can
double
move my
phone.
in-laws
Yeah.
in here. I mean,
But they can't, they need a new special permit to do so.
right, but I don't know how that
But that doesn't go in
works.
the deed, that doesn't, is there a way to follow that?
Then what you have to do, like, how do you do, so then you have to
We could put that
file
in
a
it.
termination of the special permit, I'm making up words.
Yeah.
And then the new owner of the property has to file a petition for another special permit.
If he wants it to stay the same.
But I don't know how, just because you put extra the problem is how do you can write anything within the ordinance, but then how do we enforce it in a practical
It
sense?
seems more
Can that-
difficult to be proactive in this
Can that be-
reactive.
Is there a way of
Somebody
doing that
just
where
don't
it goes to the registry of deeds?
Well, the problem is the city has to be notified.
Yeah, Peter looked at this, the building commissioner did look at this and agreed that he likes the edits.
Fine, but I don't know if it's gonna resolve anything. I mean,
It won't, it has to be enforced.
right,
Right,
You can write whatever you want.
yeah.
I don't know, to me it's pretty clear.
Well, you may,
If somebody has, let's say
I
there's
don't
two
know how
families
that-
living in a house and they sell it, And the neighbors are looking, okay, two more people are moving in.
I don't know how
They
it
don't even
changed, I don't know how the ordinance, I mean, it's already in here, so then the neighbors are going to the mayor, and then so we add language in there, and how does that fix it?
It's already there though.
That's my point.
The language is already there as far as this whole part of,
Enforcement.
you know, it comes down to enforcement.
It says, as
And-
stated
What
in
about
this-
the size requirement? Making a
Oh,
limit on the
that's a
size
valid
requirement.
point. Is there a size requirement in the
Because-
ordinance right now?
The wording though.
I mean, it's right in here. No, as stated in subsection, I know I'm beating a dead horse, but each accessory apartment special
It's in
permit
big black
terminates
print.
upon any transfer of title except between the owners of the single-family dwelling premises. No successor entitled to a single-family dwelling for which an accessory apartment special permit has been granted may use the apartment as a separate dwelling unless a new special permit
That's pretty
is
clear.
first,
And it's in big black
is first
print.
obtained.
That's pretty clear.
Okay.
And what are you saying, Elizabeth? You're saying
No,
something
she's
about the
saying
size?
They're saying they're building, you know, a
Amended
residential A, an
clause.
accessory apartment should be accessory to the primary use, it shouldn't be
Should be half or
2,000
more.
square feet.
Right.
Again, it's in here. I thought it was already in
It
there.
says no greater than 750 square feet.
So,
That's
One
the, is
thirty-
that red or is that black, John?
Or 33%
That's
of
in
the
black,
total.
750 or 33% of the total square footage of the
But the
primary
primary
dwelling.
So
Yeah.
that's primary, so if they're gonna live in a half the house,
Roughly
let's
so.
say it's 1,500 square feet to half they live in, that's the square footage is based on, not the overall house.
33%.
Yeah, the building inspector was saying that that was harder to enforce, that it's not,
I don't know how changing the language in there
Helps them
helps them enforce it.
What's part of that?
No.
so,
I
I mean,
don't
it's
know.
the max size that we're having a problem with, not the min size.
The only way you're gonna be able to enforce it is if somebody complains. 'cause
Right.
Right, it's all
If
gonna be
if
reactive.
nobody complains,
But they have
someone's
to
gonna move in that
complain,
house.
but they have to complain before title passes to the next owner.
And not to the mayor.
So it's gonna be some
Or,
kind of.
well, actually, that's not true, because
No,
then the
that's
city, then the
automatic.
building inspector
That's
can
right.
say, your special permit has been terminated
Right.
pursuant to this, and he doesn't need to change
You have
the,
to come back
That's
in.
Right.
he doesn't, I don't think you need to change the language, but
I agree.
I'm wondering about the spirit of this request as opposed to the wording of this request. He's asking about, 3 bullet points. He specifically asks about, owner reside in one, relative reside in another, and the size of the unit. It sounds like the concern is that we're turning single-family homes into potential rental units.
Oh, yes.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Well,
And
that's how
there's
people
no
are buying
wording
them.
about
Right,
flipping an in-law
Right.
into a rental unit.
right.
Right.
Well, because there's no termination. I mean, let's say you have your mother-in-law downstairs and she dies in her apartment, right?
Joe
You
Blow
bring
buys
somebody
the
else in.
house,
It's probably out.
I
and
mean,
then
or even
the
without buying
neighbors
the house,
realize
maybe
that
have
someone
somebody
across the
else.
street now is living in the
Check,
in-law that is clearly not related.
I know,
Right.
Jason, 90.1.10, a special permit is issued for accessory apartment accessory to a single-family residence dwelling does not authorize apartment, multifamily, or two-family dwelling use of the subject premises. It's already in there.
Does
It's in there.
does not authorize equal forbids.
Yeah, it
Is
says
it,
no,
is
you
it
can't.
something,
You lose,
A special permit does
goes away.
not
we don't approve
authorize,
this, but do we forbid it?
it does, I don't, it doesn't
You know, I'm
authorize
just-
it, I mean, it's
I don't mince
semantics.
words.
That means, no, it doesn't authorize,
The-
And again, it's not our place to enforce it.
that's right.
No.
We're not, who does?
It should be the
Who's the
building
one that knocks on
inspector.
the door and says, you're not, this is not a rental unit?
That's the building.
So
And
what do we,
that's
so what do
where-
we do with this?
That's where we have a problem in the city. We have a building inspector, we do not have an enforcement officer.
You know,
Okay?
we're having problems with them.
Well, he's the
overall.
But he
has-
has,
He
he's
has
the
a number of
enforcement
hats.
officer
he has a
and
number of hats, so.
he wears a number of hats.
Do you want to move?
And there's a number of things that could, you know, and maybe we need somebody that should be an enforcement officer.
Well, we said that at the meeting last Monday night.
Yeah.
And the same thing with that master
That's a
plan on
good
the
solution.
subdivision.
That's
so
the
they
ratification,
don't
or-
detention.
So let's,
Let's move on.
since the mayor came to you, Elizabeth, why don't you go back to the mayor, show him the language in 90 point, whatever
No,
it is, right?
90.1.1.
90.1.
Yeah, let me write it down.
90.1.
I
have.
See if that makes them happy.
Doing this?
And see if that's
But he
satisfied.
might have done.
And if he's still concerned, then we can talk about it.
Okay,
Yeah.
the language in 90 point what?
90.1.
just, I mean, in my
It's in the
opinion,
ordinance.
in my opinion, Elizabeth, pages 125 and 126, which is what
So the
deals with accessory apartments,
You feel
It
like
sa-
it's covered, you
it
feel like his
satisfies his
concerns.
concerns with the
His
problem
concerns
is,
are covered.
what the
Size.
problem
Just
is
ask him to
the
take a look.
enforcement.
And if he's
No,
no
size is
concern,
contained in here, size is regulated
I
in this
mean,
ordinance.
isn't the, I mean, if people are complaining, I mean, it's simple, then somebody in City Hall needs to send a written notice to the owner saying,
Cease and desist. Right.
exactly,
Special
your
permit
special
does not-
permit
Does not,
does not transfer.
it's
It's
sale
moving
in the
day.
house.
If you are seeking a special permit to have your family member living in the in-law apartment, you need to petition for a special permit. That's the simple resolution.
More and more in-laws, we have three
Yeah.
in-law apartments pop up.
All right.
But it's a difficult,
It's just, you know, he can't keep track of the houses being sold. But I'll bet you we have a list of special permits, for accessory apartments somewhere.
That we
List them
can,
all.
that list them all, that we
And with
can,
the people that applied for them originally, so he could tell if the unit's been sold. And those are the ones you would go check on, right?
We
The
can
ones that have
we
been
can
sold,
follow
go
up
check
with
and
him
see
on
if they're.
Isn't that,
it. We can get a list and go.
All right.
I know it's not.
6.4.
is there a place to cross-reference that?
It's good work, board.
No, but we could get that.
But the, what
Yeah.
I just
I
asked
think
for,
that's a good starting
special
point.
permits.
Get a list of the
For
accessory
list.
and do you know how many there are in the city that don't even have a special permit?
Yeah, but we can't.
Start. There's illegal
Yeah.
ones too.
But that's,
No,
but my point is, there's a lot of them that don't
That's
even,
right.
that just have,
They're just.
When was the last time we approved them?
We have.
And we know they're all
I
over the
don't
city.
think, I don't think we've ever done one.
So there may be no special.
No, they go
permit.
through, they get
No, there's been a
permitted,
couple.
I think they get permitted through building,
So let's
And they
pull the
don't go through-
permits.
yeah.
See who's
We're
got
not gonna
permits.
do any of that.
No, I know, but it'd be interesting to know.
But it says special permit?
For his, it's a special.
Yeah, but
If
it
it's
does
a
say
spec-
special permit, that's right.
Who's
If it's a special permit, it should be us,
Yeah.
not building.
Well, I know that he's come to me, showed me diagrams and said, this is what I'm getting for applications for people to build. We should.
Yeah, but then that's gonna come to the planning board. But they should.
Is he approving those without having them?
Special permits.
I will find out.
Let's get a definition on a special
It
permit.
does say
Because
special.
they've gotta come before us to
I
get
will
approved.
find out.
Article 1, 13.
This meeting is contentious.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, okay.
Starting to get along.
Let's refer this back to the mayor.
Those big subdivisions in the
Uh,
90s.
Do I have a motion to refer it back to the mayor?
Yeah, so.
Yes.
Motion made and seconded to refer back.
You know,
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
6.4.
Montezuma Regional Planning Commission Representative, MRPC nomination of Dean Valier for it of 2 postings.
All right,
Congratulations.
all right.
Congratulations,
Congrats.
you've been posted.
You've been posted.
I got posted in the one.
The meetings are.
Planning Development Director's report for September
Tommy,
20th.
I just
Tommy
had
made
an
us look
update.
bad, he never went to a meeting. So he took the
No, I
appointment
went
for
to
a
go
year.
to when they canceled.
You haven't been?
The one I was gonna go, they canceled.
I just have a quick update on a housekeeping matter, our offices. We've been working, as you most all know, we've been working up in this room since May. So as of now, the mold, the ceiling issue has been addressed, the ventilation issue has been addressed. All we have to do is flooring, and that'll be late October,
Get the schedule,
And then we'll be
check
back.
marks.
as normal.
Do you have a schedule on flooring yet?
I heard late
You
October.
wore a mask.
I was verbally told.
Okay.
But you wore a mask.
Yeah, but if there's asbestos down there, then we're.
No, but you wore a mask, everything's okay.
It is.
A match
just
makes
like
everything
that,
okay.
I just saw something like that.
Planning Development Director's report, we did that. No executive session. Is there a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Appeals.
Board of Appeals.